You have found yourself on lesson 4 of never paying for a website again. This must be clickbait. What is this guy talking about? No, trust me. By the end of this playlist, you will never have to pay for a website again. If you just found this series, welcome to a ton of free content. That's good and actually valuable. In lesson 1, we went over what, how, and why. In lesson 2, we set up our project together with Firebase and VS Code in order to start emulating our website. If you just heard code and you're about to click away, don't worry. Trust me, there's a new way to code. It was only possible in this past year. We let AI do everything. You barely got to understand it. In lesson 3, we went over how to set up security, our user interface, and SEO. And lesson 4, which is today's lesson, is we're going to go ahead and code together using artificial intelligence. I'm going to show you how I code personally, make it super simple, and we're going to create our top fold today. Your first question might be, Corbin, what in the heck is a top fold? That's this right here. It's basically the first amount of UI that showcases when you load into a website. Think of it like the first 25%, or alternatively, this right here. As always, I'm going to leave a Google Doc in the description down below that walks you step by step of everything we do in today's video. I'll also include that ChatGPT chat that is specialized for this video. To be clear though, this ChatGPT chat I'm going to share in this video is going to apply for the next 3 to 4 lessons. I went ahead and calculated out how many more lessons are going to be required for this playlist, and it looks like we're going to have a total of 10 lessons. For the lessons coming out, this is going to go over topics such as setting up a gallery with images, videos within your landing page. On top of that, doing CTAs. One type of call to action we're going to do together is when a user puts in their email, subscribing to a newsletter. But through that lesson, you're going to learn a bunch of other stuff when it comes to more intuitive stuff with your landing page. That's coming up. Let's jump into today's lesson, which is going to be going over how to create a top fold with artificial intelligence. Let's proceed. Congrats to everyone that has made it this far. You've watched lesson 1 to lesson 3. And what I can guarantee from here on out is now you're going to be able to see how to code with GPT. That's why like the first 3 lessons of this playlist is very much like just getting set up. When you actually code a website for real and not like, oh, use this service and pay $20 a month. No, like actually code out a website. There's a little bit of setup and a little bit of structuring we have to do before we really dive in. But from here on out, the lessons are going to be very much oriented to actually building out this landing page. So no, this is not going to be a learn how to code in 10 minutes. Here is your landing page. No, like this entire playlist is probably going to be around 8 hours long. But that's good. Because if you actually want to do this, and actually I want to learn how to do this, you're going to need that much time to understand it. Therefore, if you just found this video, you're like, what is this guy talking about? Check lesson 1 out, because chances are if you just jump to lesson 4 and there's something in here that you're like, this guy didn't explain it well enough, he didn't show us how to do this, it probably was in a previous lesson. Let's jump in. Let's do step 1 together, which is going to be us finding inspiration of a landing page we like. I'm going to show you how to take that design and actually replicate it into code and use it ourselves. Everyone have their ChatGPT chat open in a separate tab, on a separate window, in a separate area. Make sure you watch lesson 2 that showed you how to create custom instructions. That's going to be very important. If you're getting bad answers, that means you didn't do lesson 2. Make your custom instructions as I showed you there. Good so far? Let's find some inspiration. For me, I already found my inspiration. I'm going to show you an image of it. For you, look through the internet. Find a website you like, whether it's design-wise or just overall structuring, and do what I'm about to show you. So, for example, let's say I go to MailChimp, and for example, that search was like landing page examples. Let's say I land on this landing page, and I'm like, you know what, Corbin? I like this landing page. What I want you to do is very simple. As a Mac user, just hit Command-Shift-4. This is going to allow you to screenshot a section of your page. If you're a Windows user and you know how to screenshot as well on Windows, let people know in the comments down below. I don't know the shorthand for it. For us, though, we're going to simply grab the section that we like. We're building a top fold today. This is the top fold here. We would go ahead and drag over this. Well, let me close this little chat bot. No, MailChimp. I don't want to talk. We're going to go ahead and screenshot this. This image is what we're going to base our top fold design on if we were to choose this as our top fold design. What I'm about to show you workflow-wise and logic-wise, you can apply to anything. Anything, Corbin? Anything. So for example, let's say I'm on this web page and I'm like, whoa, I like this user interface. What you can do is you can simply screenshot this entire thing as well, or alternatively, screenshot elements that you really like. Because what I'm about to show you is going to allow you to replicate everything you would be able to see on a website in code and put it on your own website. Now that we know that all we need to do is screenshot sections of a website, or alternatively screenshot entire portions of a website and replicate it in code, let's see how we do it. Now, with the logic I'm about to show you, and what's great about actually doing it from the bottom up, is that you can just take inspiration from it. It doesn't have to be a complete carbon copy when you code it into your website. And from the example today you're about to see, you'll recognize that I'm not going to follow this to a T, but I like the general direction. For me, what I like about this is having bold letters on the left, like, you know, your header, your text, and then an image on the right. and then our logo in the top left. This is good structural direction for me and enough for me to work on for what I'm about to show you today. Take your screenshot and let's proceed. Time to zoom down. Not that far, not that far. And just to show you custom instructions work and it actually listens to it, let's just start off by saying, what is Web Cafe and what are we doing? We should get something along the lines of building out a web page. There you go. The Web Cafe AI landing page is a project you're working on to create an optimized landing page using React as a front end, Firebase as a back end. We set this up in lesson 2. Let's begin. Refresh the chat. Anytime you get into a chat with ChatGPT that is specialized for a specific context, e.g. this chat is specialized for creating a website using the logic we've set up in earlier lessons, understand that if you're getting bad outputs or outputs that you're just like, this is way off base, sometimes you got to refresh the chat. Sometimes you go too far into a chat, you're going to get bad outputs. The flip side can occur as well, where the outputs actually get better and better because it has more context. Attach your image. Upload from computer. Now that we have the image that we want to copy and replicate into our code here, let's go on prompt. We are building the top fold for our website today. Now, with the image I'm using today, notice a couple of things. First thing I want you to notice is that we have 2 relevant images within, this landing fold that we need to add ourselves. The first one's going to be my logo. So on the top left, I'm going to go and show you how to import a image for a logo. The second one's going to be whatever the main image is on the far right here. And I have an image for that as well. Let me go ahead and import both of those, and I'm going to walk you through why I did my prompt, how I did it. Typically, with website development, you want to use a JPEG format. This is going to allow for less size on the actual website itself. Although, in some context, you can't really use a JPEG. You need it to be PNG. Even if you know what the difference is, JPEG is like there is no transparency. With a PNG, you can create transparency, but it's a little bit more higher in the memory usage category. For now, though, we don't have to mind too much. We're already creating a pretty simple website here. So the first image I'm going to go ahead and upload is going to be this one. Notice how it is transparent. It is a PNG, and this is going to be my main header to the right image. Also, notice how I'm naming it, webcafe-cup-v1. This is important in web development because you may have a new version of this image in the future, just called v2. For now, I'm going to go ahead and drag this into the correct directory that we created in an earlier lesson, which will be in assets and images. I'm going to simply drag. Due to the fact that short term, I don't plan on adding any GIFs, I'm going to go and delete this folder. To find said file, we are in source, assets, images, and here is our image. Next, let's go ahead and add our logo. I'm going to drag it in here as well. You're like, Corbin, didn't we just add the logo in the earlier lesson for the favicon? When we're referencing the logo in our front end, we want to just go ahead and add another file here we can add a directory path for. Source, assets, images, logo 512. Now they have both images within my project here. Let's go and reference them. In order to reference images from file to file, it's going to be another import command. What's great about this is that once you do it once, it's a very simple just copy, paste, copy, paste. So for me, I'm just going to put import. Actually, instead of me typing out, let me show you the power of AI to help you. Let's say you didn't know how to import this file and you're like, I'm kind of lost. Go ahead and screenshot it. Screenshot this exact path. Once you've screenshotted it, simply add it as an image, say, give me the import path, and there we go. This is the relevant import path that we care about. We got the name that we're going to reference within the code and where we can find it. Copy code. For now, I'm just going to add it here, even though I'm not going to use it here. Although we've just identified together the exact way to reference image files now. We know it's in assets, we know it's in images, and it's just the image file itself. I'm going to go ahead and copy this again, and we're going to go ahead and say Web Cafe logo. And for the actual file name here, which is this, we'll name it to what we had over here, which is logo 512. Boom. Now, the reason I did both of that right now is for the GPT prompt. So coming back over to my GPT prompt here, notice how I'm also referencing images. So we are building the top fold of our website today. Let's create the code for the file of header.js and header.css. When creating new files with AI, identify the exact file names so you can reference it later on and it's very clear to you. If I didn't identify that there, it would just be like header files.js. Like it just would give me a random name like website blank.js, like identify file names. Furthermore, when you have relevant information that you want to show up, such as an image, identify that as well. So for me, we're going to say use the image as reference copy. Everything in it for the image, use this. That might have sound confusing. When I say use the image, I mean use the attached image. And GPT is smart enough to understand what you mean and understand that this is the attached image. Now, typically what I like to do is, especially for complex work, I usually just like to give it one file to reference for fillers, for images that will be used on a web page. But for now, let's go ahead and take it one step further here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Web Cafe cup as the just image placeholder. I'm going to say for everything else, use fixed text. And for the top left, here is our logo and brand slogan. Copy the import file here, put it there, and our slogan is automate everything. In the Google Doc, if I don't share this exact prompt, I probably will just share the chat itself so you can reference the type of prompting I do in this logic. For now, though, hit enter. Boom. While this is generating, we're going to go ahead and make that header.js file and that header CSS file. Coming over to our project here, and I'll move over here. In our views section, we're going to go ahead and create a new file here. We're going to do header.js, and then we're going to do header.css. Typically, you have two options when it comes to this kind of logic. You can either create a CSS class per component, e.g. the top full today, or alternatively create one master CSS class for the entire website. Depends on what you want to do. I'm going to do it per component so it becomes more clear to you how to leverage this kind of CSS logic when dealing with, more complex stuff. So for now, header.js or header.js and header.css. Now, before we can see what the code looks like, we got to launch our emulator. So we can do this side by side. Make sure to go to your cheat sheet, which for us, it's going to be a directory. So we're going to start with that, enter. Then we're just going to simply do the command here, which is npm start. What I suggest you to do, especially early on, is if you don't remember what a command does, write a little note by it. It's going to help you remember. And then obviously long term, you can do stuff like this and be good to go. There we go. We have it launched in our emulator, which is localhost 3000. Anything we do here, it's not going to break our current website. It's just going to allow us to play around, get fast results, and get going. Now, sometimes when you compile, you'll get little warnings like this or deprecations. Don't worry. For the most part, these are just warnings. They actually don't break the underlying website. For example, the warnings I see here are saying, hey, you got this image? And you're not using it. And they're referencing these images right here. Well, yeah, I'm not using it, code, because I haven't got to it yet. So a lot of this stuff is not too worrisome. In the meantime, though, let's go ahead and add a little bit of an extension here that's going to make our code look a little bit prettier. I'm going to type in pretty, or P-R-T-T-E-R-I-E-R. Hit install. This kind of stuff will make more sense as you get going more. This just adds a little bit more color to your code, make it more clear. Let's get going here, though. We're back to our code. This is the generation we got here. I want you to recognize that it realizes to import the header.css. It also recognizes the two file paths provided here. It's also customized with the customized instructions to recognize to use React and use the right type of language. Pretty good so far. Let's go ahead and copy this. Come back to our header.js and just simply paste. Command save. Nothing happened. That's just because we need to import it. It's a child component. To do so, we're going to simply make sure we import our header.js into our home.js, and this will make more sense when we do it. First off, let's just go ahead and copy and paste the CSS real quick as well. Copied. Well, actually, before we do that, never mind. I like the CSS naming. I was going to name it more specific, but it already kind of did the header.dash, which is good CSS naming logic. Come back to our CSS, Command V, Command Save. Now let's go ahead and make sure we can see it over here instead of just looking at code, which is like, what's going on here? To do so, we're going to simply import the header.js into our header page.js. And we can do this by simply doing this kind of logic. So we're going to import here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this because we're only going to reference it in our header.js file, as you saw right here. We're going to simply just import this file here, which is named header. So we'll do import header. I'm going to simply copy this up here to make my life easier. I'm going to copy paste this, and then it's not header.css, it's header.js. In addition, make sure you have a from command there because this is not a CSS component. This is a JS component. Once we got that, all you need to do in order for us to see it here is we're going to delete all this. Because right now, we're creating this as a parent and child-like structuring. This is going to allow us to, if there's an issue with a certain part of our website, it's easier to identify, and the actual file itself doesn't become like 3,000 lines long, which can get annoying, especially with the methods that we'll show you when it comes to AI and coding. For now, though, let's go to import. So what you'll notice is from previous lessons, we simply just imported the home page here. And that's good. That's all we really need to do for the app.js for now. This is what's actually being rendered right here. But the home page itself is this code. So we need to actually put components within here to render. So for us, we're not going to render the home page in the home page. We're going to render the header. Simply copy the name, paste it here, Command save, and there we go. One thing I want you to note here is you might be like, Corbin, how the heck did you know it was named header? That's just because of how we exported it here. Header. Now that got me thinking of soccer. Header, header, header. But once we do that, and what you'll notice is that basically in these lessons to follow, we'll have multiple components like this, each with their separate file here, one being like gallery, CTA, newsletter, footer. For now, though, we just got header. Once we set that up, you'll also notice some information popped here. Pretty nice. Look how much it grabbed, though, based off the information we provided. Here is the original image. This is the original image right here. We get an image right there, text right here, logo right there. Not bad, right? We're already kind of there of where we want to be at. Obviously, the copy's not correct. There's some sizing here, but we're going in the right direction. I also want to point out that we're going to do an entire lesson dedicated towards responsiveness when it comes to different screen sizes. Therefore, we don't get some craziness like that. But that's going to be in a later lesson. For now, though, we're just going to optimize for desktop and do that lesson where the entire lesson is going to be dedicated towards that. Knowing all that, let's go ahead and finish this header here. First thing I want to do is go ahead and clean up my CSS code found in homepage.css. Right now, the only CSS we're using here is purely for structuring, which is to be the cafe homepage. This is what it's wrapped around. They're called wrappers. No, not like 50 Cent. Different kind of wrapper. Come through our homepage CSS, you'll notice is that there is certain CSS classes, if I hit Command F here, that just don't show up here anymore because we're not using them anymore. Therefore, a good practice is that anytime you are not using something within code, just delete it. So we're going to delete all this. And the only purpose that the homepage is going to be for us now is purely for structuring. So what you'll notice is that we set up some logic here in the parent to make it so that text aligned center. I don't like that. I'm going to delete that. I don't want to set up some global clause like that. Typically with a parent class like this, it's purely for the actual layout itself. So for example, we got padding here. When you think of padding like a car cushion, like you ever been like on a futon that's just like not comfortable? You're like, how much did you pay for this? They're like $90 on Amazon. And you're like, that makes sense. Padding is what adds the like how much it goes in or out. So for example, if I went to 20 here, notice how that popped out. If I go to 50, it pops back in. This is the surrounding area of the underlying box. If you're speaking with AI, you just simply say, can we get some more space on the left and the right and the top and the bottom? Same deal. Let's go ahead and start coding with AI here and make this look a lot better. So I'm going to stop this little side-by-side thing. We're going to have one big VS Code. We'll swipe over, see what the website looks like in a one big desktop look. Here's our website. Let's start a new chat. Coming over to ChatGPT 4.0, and the reason I'm doing this, in theory, I could continue this chat, but I want to show you how to start a fresh chat on a current page you're working on or a current component. This is going to be very helpful, as sometimes you can get into the conversations, you're like, this is not working out, start a new chat like this. Hey, we are working on a new page on our front end. Here is the code. Semicolon, Shift, Enter, Enter. Go to the first page you're going on. Command A, Command C. Control A, Control C. Paste the first line of code. Let's go to our CSS. Command A, Command C, Command V, and boom. Now this is going to go on a little bit of a rant here. It might tell you better ways to optimize it. Stop it. Just stop it. We don't need you talking, ChatGPT. From here, though, it has your code. So we can start doing stuff with it and not worrying about getting answers that aren't relevant to us. This is huge. Let's look at that web page. What's wrong with this web page? First thing that's wrong with this web page that I can identify is the text is not left aligned. Automate everything. That needs to be a little bit higher. There's stuff wrong with the padding. So here is what we're going to do. I'm going to first off screenshot this. This is what we call double, double, and double. I'm going to upload it. Is this mandatory for every single time you code on the front end? No. Just showing you good practice here. This is where we say this is our current UI. Not to get too advanced here, let's just start simple. For the text, can we have it left aligned? Enter. And here we go. Updated header.jss, copy code. Come over to header.js, Command A, Command V, paste. Updated.css, copy code. Header.css, paste. Command save. And it's left aligned. What you just saw right there is huge. I could basically stop this series right now and just be like, go. And you kind of got the workflow now of what I'm about to show you throughout this entire playlist. As you get better at doing everything I just showed you there, you will over time learn more and more about what to do in your code manually that's going to lead to the results you want. What do I mean? Basically, when you're just starting out, do exactly what I just showed you, and you will get pretty far. Over time, through this logic and through this workflow, you're going to get little messages like this. Ensure text is left aligned. Text align left. Oh, that's cool. Keep going with your workflow, but now you've identified, wait, so basically text align left is what makes text align to the left. You don't have to learn that right away, but when you keep seeing it over and over again through this workflow, you'll learn more and more how to read your code. Therefore, that's why I'm doing this playlist, as this right here is everything. You'll be able to do everything you want to do like this. And you don't have to understand any of that right now. There's simple stuff you can just understand right off the bat. For example, the VPN that just works. No. Command save. No. You just added that to your arsenal. Now you know you can just simply take the stuff that doesn't look like code and it's fixed text and be like, what? What? This is what I'm talking about. Now that you know the workflow and the process, let's finish our header. To start off here, let's go ahead and change my text because I'm not a VPN company and I don't have an exclusive offer where you can get it for 3 months. For me, it's a holding company, ASS investor, and Web Cafe AI. What I'm going to do here is simply screenshot this. Once I've screenshotted it, let's do this. I'm going to upload it. Now that I have it uploaded, no, I don't actually have to type out the text for it to use. ChatGPT can actually read that for me. So that solves one situation. Now, in theory, I could just be like, replace the text with this text, but I'm going to show you how to approach this in a more effective way. My goal here is to remove this text and possibly remove this. In order to communicate with ChatGPT to be as effective as possible, let's actually identify that within the code. So we see the VPN that just works, exclusive offer. So we know that's the text, but how do I really identify it? Now, in theory, I could just copy and paste this over and be like, change this. That works. Although the more effective way to do this, especially so you get better outputs, is see what is wrapping around it. So for this, you'll notice it's the header text. What you'll see is that the div, if I can zoom in, the div highlights another div. That means that they're together. If I went ahead and selected this div, you'll see that all these are together. What does together mean in this context? That just think of it like another compartment in a shelf. All this code is existing in this shelf. Therefore, in order to change everything within the code and little intricacies in it, you can either go to the master shelf or just this little shelf right here. So for me, all I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna say for this, semicolon, paste the code. Let's change it to the styling of the image. Also, the words that are said in the image. Also, notice how the second word on each line is a different color. Furthermore, please have each line have a CSS class. Right now, it's just H1 default, P default. We don't want that typically. We want an actual CSS class like this associated with the text. Please output the entire new J6 and CSS file. That last line is not typically necessary to get good code, but I'm going to give it to you right now because some of y'all, especially if it's early days, just do the copy paste method. Copy paste, hit enter. Therefore, in this entire playlist, I'm going to try to reserve myself from just trying to code live. Like, e.g., that's why I kind of went with like showing how to import an image. I actually was like, wait. Let me just show you how to do it through ChatGPT. That's my plan of this playlist. I want to make this as simple as possible. So if I start coding for a little bit too long, let me know. Let me know if I'm actually typing it out. Like, I might type out some stuff, but I shouldn't be typing out a lot of stuff. And the reason why, and honestly, if you made it this far, here's a little secret. This is a new niche. The content I'm creating right now is a new niche. Never has coding been so easy that if you wanted to start coding and had zero experience, you could do it right now. New niche alert. All right, copy the entire file. Come over here, Command A, Command V, Command Save. Okay, so we each one got a CSS class. Nice. Updated header.css. Copy. Command A, Command V, save. Pretty good, huh? Now, with what we have right here, I'm going to go ahead and make sure just to bold investor with this color. But we have a pretty good start here. Notice how fast that was. I didn't have to know anything about code. I used all layman dictation and got what I wanted. In order to do what I need to do, notice how they're using a highlight CSS here to color it differently. So for me, I'm just going to delete this. And anytime you want to delete code, what you'll notice is that it's always bracketed into something. So for example, if I delete this and I'm like, oh, I don't want this here, there's going to be an error. And you can even see that the error, what's causing the error. I can delete again, and then I can add it here. Alternatively, I could have just asked ChatGPT to do that, but I'm going to have to show you a little bit. I'm going to show you a little bit. Command save, and boom. So far, so good. Let's go ahead and add some more formatting here. One thing I don't like right now, even though this is a big screen, is there's just too much space. I need this shrinked in. I need this centered. I need this compressed. Let's do it. Let me show you another little tip here when it comes to coding like this. If you've added a lot of new additions and it's starting to look better, you don't want bad outputs, sometimes you can do this. Okay, great. Here is what we have so far. And all we're going to do is simply paste in our JS file again and our CSS file again in its entirety. This is going to allow ChatGPT to recognize the new code, and when referencing new code it's outputting, it'll be this code as well. So you won't get some older code kind of getting mixed in there. Hit enter. You can stop its output because purely the use case of this input was purely to show you the most recent code to play with. Therefore, let's do what I wanted to do earlier, and let's go ahead and center this and structure it. Say, okay, for this section, can we have the width be smaller and align the entire block in the middle of the website? I'm not even going to add that header CSS class, so I can just show you, you're completely just talking to it. You'll still get the end goal. Copy, paste, copy, paste. And that was horrible. Didn't do at all what I wanted, but that's fine. All you need to do is this. Command Z, or undo. And we're back where we're at. Don't worry. When this kind of stuff happens, just Command Z, and let's go and start a fresh chat together to get it actually working. I'm going to go ahead and come back to JS here. I noticed that it left out Sass, so I'm going to put it back in there. And let's do it. I'm going to come up here to new chat and input the same amount of code. We'll be working on this today. CSS, JS, ready to help. This should give me like a one-sentence response here, and we'll proceed. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of things. I'm going to reapproach how I'm going to structure this. I'm going to say, let's go ahead and change this header class to a div class. And on top of that, let's go ahead and shrink the width. Sometimes we've got to start smaller. Okay, for this, let's make it a div and only 80% width. Enter. That's why when you do this kind of style, make sure to push and commit branches or updates to your code to the cloud, like I showed you in earlier lessons. And on top of that, when you run into basically really going down a rabbit hole, like, you know, I'm going to really iron out this component today, have those branches pushed so you can roll back to them, or alternatively just Command Z and undo like one little change you just did. Copy and paste over. With it copy and paste it over, it's shrinked, looking better. We're getting somewhere. Coming over here. Notice how it will sometimes leave a comment on how it's approaching it, how it did its logic. It added this width line here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually shrink this down to like 60. And then the margin 0 auto is what allows us to center it. And let's actually not go to 60. Let's keep it at 80. Now, there'll be obvious ones that you don't necessarily need to output an entire file for. One example of this is the actual background color. This seems pretty simple here. All you got to do is add FFF. And this is why playing around is good. And there you go. Now it's all white. With our current code here, I'm going to go ahead and just re-input that into ChatGPT because now it needs to recognize that there is a FFF or white background. And then what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and shrink this in a little bit. Go ahead and add the little brackets that I usually like to have around automate everything. And that should be pretty far in here. This is how we're approaching our next prompt here. Okay, for automate everything, which is this right here, can we just do automate everything, the curly brackets, and just have everything bold, like the actual word everything bold, and just have the word everything bold. There we go. Next thing I wanted to work on is the gap between these two. I say, and can we have the gap between, and then provided the CSS code, or the J6 code, which is right here. It's this section and this section. So I just went ahead and copy and paste it over. This is not necessary. I'm just showing you a good rule of thumb. And I say, be smaller. And also, can we add a shadow and a CSS class for the image? What you'll notice is that there's not a class name in the line itself. There is no CSS class. You typically want to add CSS classes. This is going to allow for you to do more and crazier and cooler stuff. With all this information, hit enter. And the way I'm going about it is my way. Your way, you could just use all layman dictation. You don't need to reference code and proceed. What you'll notice, though, is that if you run into errors, just follow that simple logic of Command-Zing and trying again. Copy code, paste code. Notice the new class name. Copy code, paste code. First thing that I'm recognizing is that, okay, the shadow wasn't probably a good idea. So we'll probably remove that. Or alternatively, we can actually play around with that if we wanted to. So it added a new line here called box shadow. We can do something called border radius. If you were talking to ChatGPT, you could ask the same thing here. All you need to do is border radius 50%. And that still doesn't look good. So we're not actually going to add anything here. Delete. Now, what you'll notice is that for the automate everything, it didn't listen. And it didn't work. And that's because, and this is actually very important for you to remember, notice how it says H2 here. Sometimes it defaults to this and it causes issues. And the way it's going about this too is probably not the best way. So we're going to say this. For this line, don't use H2 and use be bold. This is how you do bold in code. It would have known this anyways, but we say don't use H2 and use B for everything. What's great is that if you don't want to just copy and paste one line, it'll do the entire file again. If you want just the line itself, just ask specifically, can I get that line? For me, I'm going to go ahead and grab this. So that worked. Looks good. Let's add those curly brackets. So let me show you how to do that real quick. We're going to say just for this line, output that line just with outside, automate everything. Look at that. I didn't even need to know how to do that kind of logic, and it should work here. Paste. Still not working. I'll give up on it. Or alternatively do this. Screenshot. With this screenshot, we're going to simply attach. This is what it looks like. We need it to be, and I'm just going to type it out. Hit enter. I'm going to let it do its entire output here, but I'm going to go and stop it where we care about it, which will be right here. Paste it. And there we go. Add the curly brackets. Didn't even need to know how to do it. Automate everything. I forgot the period. So let's add the period. And we're good to go. In the next lesson, we'll go ahead and refine this a little bit more. We'll create a whole other component for the context of video files and image files and some type of hover over logic. We'll see what it's about. Make sure to leave a like. It's completely free. All the resources described in today's video are in the description down below, and I'll see you in the next video.